think we all agree that Arsenal need to sign Eze, but I think Tor proved it even more. I want to break down in this video why. Now, where are we with Eze very quickly? He had a release clause, it's expired, but according to Ben Jacobs, Arsenal are not worried about the Eze release clause expiring after holding talks with Crystal Palace. The plan has always been to bid below the clause valuation should they proceed with the deal, and Eze remains keen on a move. For what it's worth, I actually thought the clause of £68 million, actually quite good value, but okay, Arsenal are going down a particular route. They've made 6 signings. I think Andrea Berta's, apart from Madueke, got really good value for almost every signing, so I'm okay with being patient and seeing how this pans out. But ultimately, it needs to end up with Arsenal signing Eberechi Eze, because I think it's crucial we sign a player who can cover on the left wing, who can cover in the 10 space, but more than anything can facilitate that left-hand side. Arsenal's football is still channeled from a creative perspective way more down the right than any other area of the pitch. Eze would help us unlock that left side. In this video I'll talk about why, but I also want to talk about how Arsenal do have some ingredients to try and make that better anyway, that there are tweaks they can make, and that this isn't just a manager thing, this isn't just a signings thing. It can be tweaked. It can be a case of Arsenal tweaking certain dynamics and they'll go up levels, in my opinion. Now, I want to show you this, the attack map against Tottenham. It'll be no surprise to anyone who saw very repetitive patterns, who saw Arsenal trying to do a lot of the same thing against Tottenham. They will see that the highest concentration of play was down the right-hand side. The darker that area of the pitch, as you can see from this graphic from SofaScore, shows us that Arsenal were trying as usual, through Martin Odegaard to get a wide to Saka, to pin a fullback. Ben White might go on the overlap, and it was a lot of the same stuff. Arsenal barely asked a question of Vicario in that game out in Hong Kong. But what if I showed you this? Because I think this is quite surprising. Our attack map against Newcastle actually showed that the highest concentration of play was down the left-hand side. Now, I guess when you reflect on that, to be fair, it was the left side of the pitch in Trossard, Marino, Havertz that combined to get that equaliser to make it 1-1. We saw Kai Havertz whip the ball into the box for the own goal. There were lots of moments actually that, came from the left. So I suppose from a pure moments perspective, that's not surprising. But the fact that most of our football is channelled that way, that does surprise me. But again, you actually look at the 11s for that team, you look for those teams and those games, you look at the personnel and the way they like to play on the pitch. It's not that surprising at all. So let me show you 2 graphics back to back. It's the average positions. On the left, we've got the average positions of the game against Newcastle with number 16, Christian Norgard in there. And on the right, we've got number 36, Zubimendi starting. And apologies, I've got that wrong. It's on the left, it's the one against Tottenham, and on the right, it's the one against Newcastle. But the point I want to make here is you can see Norgard drifting more to the right from an average position perspective. You can see Zubimendi a little bit more central. But I think what's more interesting is via SofaScore, you can actually see their heat maps, and you can see that Norgard was favouring that right-hand side a little bit more, and Zubimendi a lot more balanced with a lot of, his 2 most concentrated areas being on the right, but also that little pocket on the left as well. And this actually supports what the eye test was telling me anyway. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. I felt Zubimendi was drifting more to the left in that game against, I think we saw against AC Milan, I think we saw against Newcastle. I think he was moving more towards that side of the pitch, trying to get the left-hand side ticking. We even saw Lewis Skelly in slightly higher areas of the pitch. Now that in itself is a little bit of a tweak, but I think there's something Arsenal can play with a little bit more on that. And the reason it's not surprising that Zubimendi can do this is because when you look at his heat map from last season via SofaScore for Sociedad in the league, again, a slight bias towards the left-hand side. We've talked about this on the channel before. I think Ben Mattinson broke it down really well on Transfers Explained. But you can see that there is a slight bias that side, and maybe Arsenal could use this to help that side of the pitch tick a little bit more, but it's going to have to come with a few more tweaks. Now, these are the issues I have, because I believe dynamics are important. There's 3 things I've got here on my list I want to go into. On the tactical pad, first thing I want to talk about is Declan Rice. Declan Rice, as a left 8 who's able to press up the pitch and help win the ball back, brilliant. And I actually think there's certain things from an attacking perspective he can do well in that left 8 area. But I do think the things we're asking him to do are so uncomfortable for him. Now, he's a very good player, so he kind of does it quite well anyway, but not to the level that I think maximises his potential and actually maximises what we've got in the team. And all this will be brought back to Eze, but let me just explain this in a little bit more detail. I kept noticing on pre-season tour, as we've noticed last season, Declan Rice pulling out wide, because sometimes it'll be Martinelli on the touchline and they want to get him a little bit more central. That means Rice is driving into sort of more central areas here with the ball, and it's just frustrating to watch. I think it looks a bit awkward for him. And then in build-up, when the ball is with David Raya, there it is, he's often standing here, we're almost going long to Kai Havertz, who's trying to win a flick on, into a Declan Rice or into a Bukayo Saka, and they're kind of getting near him because they're the more powerful runners, Saka and Rice, as opposed to Zubimendi and Odegaard. And I kind of get it, but why would we spend £105 million on a number 6? Because that's what Declan Rice was when we signed him, and I think probably still is. A lot of people feel his best position is still in front of that back four. Why would you sign a number 6 you're not confident putting in front of the back four to win the ball? But because, and when I say win the ball, I mean receive the ball on the half turn. Declan Rice isn't what we've had in that position before, but he's still very technical. And again, can we just tweak the system a little bit? When you look at that left 8 role, it has been, dare I say, more suited to a Kai Havertz or a Mikel Merino. Because I think what we saw, if we just take Rice out the 11, at times in pre-season, was Merino out wide here, whipping a brilliant ball into the box against Newcastle that Kai Havertz met with his head and it went over the bar. But we've also seen when Martinelli or Trossard have the ball, that underlap from Merino, and it's on his left foot, he makes that darting run and it comes across goal. I mean, we've seen that happen quite comfortably for Merino because he's a left footer. He's also a more natural attacker than Declan Rice. So if he's the one running onto long balls to Kai Havertz, that kind of makes a little bit more sense. And as we saw, that flick on led to that goal against Newcastle when he just opened up his left foot and he found that corner. So Merino is more suited to that role than Declan Rice. I just wonder why we keep asking Declan to do that. Now, let's look at Eze's heat map for a sec. We've seen this before. I'm not showing you anything particularly new or innovative here. We know that he plays on that left side of the pitch, but we can also see he's not a touchline winger. He plays quite tucked in that attacking half. He doesn't really go all the way to kind of the byline when he's playing out on the left. He's not taking on fullbacks going around the outside. He wants to play on the inside, getting the ball facing up towards goal. I think Arsenal can use this in a variety of ways. First thing we'll talk about is the dynamics of the team if he were to be on that left. So if we take Martinelli out, now I've got Havertz in the 11. Of course, it could be Gyökeres. That's not really the important point here. With Eze, I just think to myself, can Arsenal play in a way that gets Lewis Skelly on the overlap? But even if he is on the touchline and we've got our wingers really wide, he more naturally, I think, comes inside to support a Merino if that's the kind of dynamic you want. But you could even have him just as the out-and-out left 8 with a Zubimendi or a Rice there. Let's bring Trossard into the 11. And I think there's a world, a little bit like with Odegaard and Nwaneri. Let's get Nwaneri in here. And again, I need to update the numbers, so apologies. But I think there's a world in which Saka can tuck in quite naturally because Nwaneri gets the ball out wide out on the touch and he's comfortable. I think that's kind of true of Eze too. I think you can have these almost rotating dynamics between, Eze, Nwaneri, and then the wingers because they're comfortable out wide, but they're comfortable in central areas. And in the same way, I don't think you'd do them both in the same team, but I think you could use Eze in that way. So when you're asking a Merino or a Rice to get out wide, to carry a lot, which they have to do in that area of the pitch, to drive into space and to be out on the touchline to allow the winger to move inside, Eze, I think, fits that really, really comfortably. I think there's a way in which he can actually carry out all those roles. Even though he's not a left footer, I think he acts more naturally in that area of the pitch than some of the options we have there. I would probably be more comfortable near a Merino than necessarily a Declan Rice, even though Merino's left footed and Rice is right footed. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But I know what's kind of being thrown back here. Well, what happens to Declan Rice? He could start as a 6. But if he starts as a 6, then you're dropping Zubimendi, who we just signed. It feels like we need Zubimendi in this team. I think, realistically, there's quite a few ways to do this. And it doesn't involve losing some of your best players. We get Declan Rice in there. And let's bring back Trossard, for example. No, Odegaard, apologies. Where is he? There we go. Now, immediately, this is your team, I think, if you're trying to get those players on the pitch. Like I say, maybe Gyökeres for Havertz. But if you just make little tweaks, like a 4-2-3-1, should I say, with Eze there, Odegaard, Saka behind Havertz or Gyökeres. You got Rice and Zubimendi. But then you want to get Zubimendi maybe here on the left in the double pivot. And then you've got him in the areas he's a little bit more comfortable in. And then you can start to build that same attack by getting Lewis Skelly to move up the pitch. And then, like we've said, we've evolved, but we've not completely changed what we're about. Arsenal have done this before. When Smith Rowe played off the left, Kieran Tierney was bombing forward. This was how Mikel Arteta created the 3-2-4-1. So this isn't completely alien to us. Lewis Skelly can go on the outside, but who's to say that Eze can't hug the touchline so Lewis Skelly can move into that area as well? I mean, this is throwing different questions at teams. This means you're getting the driving natural power of Lewis Skelly through the middle. It also means you can get him tucking inside in the way he is. You've got Eze who can take on fullbacks. He's a brilliant dribbler, but you could also get Eze in more central pockets, as we've talked about. And Lewis Skelly with his left foot can go on the outside. We've seen the clips of him working with Gabriel Heinze, trying to improve on his crossing. Maybe he can give us something as a more traditional left back. I don't really see why Arsenal couldn't evolve this and have Eze with Ødegaard in the pockets as Zubimendi and Rice. I mean, there's very few better box midfields in the Premier League. Zubimendi, Rice, Eze, Ødegaard. What don't they have? They've got guile, they've got that dribbling, that flair, they've got that kind of creating, marauding type midfielder of like a Zubimendi who just kind of runs the game. You've got Rice who can bomb up and down the pitch. But what you also do is unlock someone like a Bukayo Saka. And Declan Rice can be constantly bombing up and down that side of the pitch with Zubimendi tucking in, and then he's playing the kind of role that Mourinho is playing on the left side, but on his right side in a more comfortable way too. Out of possession, you've got Eze, Rice and Saka as the four, with Ødegaard, Havertz, Gyökeres, whoever it is, pressing as the front two. It's little tweaks, but I think in Eze, right, because we're saying we want a starting left winger, and maybe Rodrigo isn't available. That's fine. I mean, if he doesn't want to come, you can't force him out of the club. I don't think there's many other left wingers I'm that comfortable with. But if you're talking about signing depth for Ødegaard because he didn't have a good season, someone who's good enough to start on the left, well, Eze certainly is, even if he's not an out-and-out left winger. But you tweak it to get him in the areas he's more comfortable in, and then you get Rice and Zubimendi doing what they do best. I think my point is, Arsenal, and we saw it on tour, are a very good team still. We're just talking about little tweaks. And maybe one more player and a shift in certain dynamics so that Declan Rice isn't having to try whip balls into the box with his left foot. So he isn't playing in Gareth Bale's positions out on the touchline. But you're still getting him to be that channel runner, but in a way that supports Saka a little bit more. But gets the best out of Zubimendi in the areas he's best. Allows Eze to come on the inside. Maybe gives an unpredictability to Lewis Skelly. Gives Ødegaard some help from the creative department. I feel like one signing and one tweak, and I think I've just listed 4, 5, 6 players who could all benefit from that. I don't know. I just don't know why in pre-season we wouldn't try it. So like I said, Tour showed that Arsenal's ideas are a little bit stale still, but they were still a very good team. There's a platform there, tweak a few things, and we could be really, really good. But it does come with the signing of Eberechi Eze or a player like him. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to know what you think. Please subscribe to this video if you, subscribe to the channel. You don't subscribe to the video. Subscribe to this channel. I haven't done this for a while. It's been a while since we've been here on the set, but we are back. There's more updates coming, by the way, with the Goonerverse 2 and what's to come for this season here on the Goonerverse. So do check that all out. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Eze's a must, and did Tour prove why we absolutely must bring him to the club? Catch you all in a bit.